All right, I'm set.
Okay, awesome. Well, we are officially on the air. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining our humble call that we have this evening to talk about the bear market that we're currently in, which we refer to as Bitcoin. We're going to be doing a couple different pieces of analysis. We've got a member of our team that's been in hiatus for a while. We've got Dr. Bentley with us, along with Dr. Vantage, which we're all aware of. We've worked with him in the past. We're going to be talking about some interesting things here, and so we put out a poll on a few different groups, and one of the options in the poll was other, where you can actually click on the option to put in the coin that you'd like for us to look into. But for some reason, the stupid poll system that we decided to use this time didn't actually tell us what your options were. So we saw that there were a lot of people that put in other, but it didn't tell us what you wanted. So if you're watching live, go ahead and put it inside of the chat, and we'll do what we can to look into it. But the first thing that I'm going to look at here, I'm going to take a real quick look at Bitcoin. That I'm going to take it over to one of the others to talk about some other pieces that we've looked at. Um, we're looking at Bitcoin here, and of course we've been talking for a long time about Bitcoin, continuing on a downtrend, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. There's a decent chance that at any point in time things can move up. You never know when the market decides that it's going to reverse. So I've got a couple different theories here that I'm going to discuss with you. And again, these are just theories. I've said over and over that technical analysis commonly will be able to explain the past, but it very rarely can really predict the future. The best way for you to be able to predict the future is to look on long-term charts. So I'm looking at the 1-day chart here on Bitcoin, and I'm looking at this based on the Bitstamp exchange. I've got my volume here. I'm going to turn off the volume so there's less noise on the screen. But what I'm looking at here, I've got a clear downtrend that we've got on the chart. It's been going down, of course, since the middle of December. I'm going back and starting back here. I'm always going to refer to September 15th as really the start. That's of the bull run that we had. So I see that as our point where everything really started, and so usually that kind of gives us a clear indication of where we're going to have our major support levels based on the retracement. So what we're currently seeing, of course, we saw massive support here at 6,000, but the candle didn't close on the 1-day chart until about 68.60, which actually happened to be right on the 23.6% retracement, which also we have taken this and we have drawn a support line based on that. And we've started again back here on the 15th of September. We've taken it up here to this point to see if we can determine whether or not Bitcoin is going to go lower or Bitcoin is going to go higher. One of our points that we have to look at, of course, is whether it's going to break the channel, whether it's going to break through that support level. We're assuming it's a rising support level, of course. And actually, you can see it bounced off of that level yesterday, and today we're continuing to go down just a little bit. And so I've got a small trend line that's going down here. And one thing that Dr. Vantage had pointed out was that this could potentially be giving us a head and shoulders pattern. It's a very bearish head and shoulders pattern. So we've got our left shoulder here, we have our head, which capped out there, and then we have our right shoulder here. And where it stops, it's really hard to tell where that bottom is going to be. But we could potentially be heading down, and you can see I've got some lines here to kind of point in a direction that we could possibly be going, which it could be possible that we bottom out at 7,000. there is a potential possibility that we're not going to go down to, the dreaded, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 level. I mean, that's always a possibility that, that nothing will allow us to get there. And I did a video a couple days ago, actually, it's been almost a week ago, talking about Mt. Gox and the massive dumping that they did from their recovered Bitcoins. We expect that that they're finished selling for the time being, so that's a good, hopeful sign, because it sounds like the remainder, their 165,000 Bitcoin that they still have, is tied up in courts. So that is a good indicator for us that that maybe this was the bottom for now. At a core level, we have gone down quite a bit. We did a little recovery, and this could be just an ABC correction, and we may start heading back up. As I mentioned before, keep an eye on the charts. If you're currently tethered out, just kind of wait to see if there's a bounce in this area here. If it continues to go down, look for a bounce here at the 7,000 level. Because that could be the lowest that it goes. But you want to look for a confirmed uptrend based on the floor. So that's what I've got currently on Bitcoin. So I guess I'll turn it over to one of the other two. How about we go ahead and talk a little bit about Litecoin?
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, so Litecoin. All right, so Litecoin is actually doing something a little interesting. It looks like it's actually starting to go into a mild downtrend right now. Looking at this peak and this peak right here, also looking at this bottom and this bottom right here. So doing a little pitchfork analysis on here, it is starting to form what looks like to be a mild cup and handle right here. So we are actually hopefully going up, but I do see a lot of resistance coming from this trend line, which does appear to be forming in this channel. So I do expect it to hit up to just about 0.022, and then we might start to see a correction at that point and bring it back down a little bit.
So one interesting point here, if we take a look at the oscillator that's on the TTM squeeze and the MACD, we can clearly tell that there is a potential reversal that's in the making. And one thing that a lot of people have a hard time understanding is, we're not in moon phase right now. We are in an attempted recovery phase. So what that means is we have people that just lost a shit ton of money, and they are trying to make back profits, and they are willing to take whatever they can. And I think we can all agree on that, right? So don't expect huge moons. It does happen every once in a while, but it's not going to happen in these high market cap coins, because you have people that maybe bought Litecoin, for example. Maybe they bought Litecoin at 0.0185. And now they're just looking to make some quick gains, because we can see that there is a constant down and up, down and up. These are huge swing trading opportunities. If you haven't, taken advantage of these, you're really missing out. I think a lot of us didn't sell at 0.025 because it just kept going. We were thinking, like, oh, this is just going to continue going. It's going to continue. And well, of course, we can see that it didn't, right? And, what goes up does come down, and we can see that it has gone down even from where that run started at 0.0186. So it actually dipped below that. And that's just natural market movement. These are profit takers that are taking their money, and naturally so. I would and have done exactly the same thing. And I know a lot of my friends out there have also done that exact same thing. They have taken their profits and reinvested, and that's exactly what's happening. That this is just natural market movement. And you may like Litecoin, you may hate Litecoin. Fact of the matter is, Bitcoin just took a shit over the last couple days, and
shit.
Yeah, and Litecoin. I mean, Litecoin's been going up, not significant amounts, and yes, the USD value is going down, but your Bitcoin value is going up. and that's a significant indicator that we've got something that will actually maintain support. Again, yes, the USD value did decrease, but your Bitcoin value is going up. So it's just those two paradigms that you have to consider when you're doing your trading. Sorry, I did what I usually do, and I kind of took over a little bit there.
That's quite all right.
How about we talk a little bit about Monero?
Sure. All right, so
actually, before you get started, everybody needs to realize that that our Dr. Bentley here, he loves his drawings. I find them quite humorous, but yeah. So I'll just I'll let you go now.
It's my pretty loose and approach at technical analysis. So first, we're going to start off on the 1-day chart. With Binance, we started our trend line back from right when it like just all the way back into November, and so he's got a pretty good trend line going. It's touching it, and so there's right in let's see here, right in this area. That's where like things we're starting to go kind of crazy, because all of a sudden, if you can see by the Ichimoku cloud here, the candles started riding on top, and that's really, really bullish, and that's fantastic. And then we started going through our downtrend here, and then you can see our angry bear that formed this gigantic dump. Oh my god. What a horrendous dump that was. That's so much. And then you see your bear flag forming. And then unfortunately, we broke our trend line. And you know what happens when we break our trend lines.
And it's kind of amazing how that happens too. There was a lot of, up and down movement there. But as soon as it broke through that trend line, I mean, it literally just took a huge shit.
Right. And where a lot of people, and you can kind of see it, is, we'll scroll in a little bit, is right here for 2 days. It actually like hit its support and was trying to fight through it. Like this was its support line. And then when it closed on that second day, below it, that's now we've seen it slide even more. Let me just clear a little bit of this out. So we'll scroll back out on the 1 day, and we're gonna grab ourselves a line real quick. So from the best that I could tell, ignore this other crap here. Here is our support line. So we're basing that off of, well, this right here is actually really interesting, that it was just so neutral, bouncing right there. And then it went on its uptrend, and then like here. And kind of close, but like right there. So I'm pulling that support line from those areas. So if I had to guess, I would say by the 20th, if it's gonna keep going down, I think the bottom is right in here. So
bottom line, I think what we're trying to say is you probably shouldn't be holding Monero at this point if you are if you're looking to do a quick flip. I think that there's some potential there to,
if you're trading on the 1 day.
Yes.
On the 1 day.
Yeah, if you can be patient for a few days, I think there's some potential for some gains there.
I think I do agree, because I'll have to, sorry Bear, we're gonna have to say bye. This green cloud up here could be promising. That might indicate a slight uptrend, because once it hits this bottom, it's gonna bounce. And that's like what we're trying to do right now is, if you haven't sold your Monero, I personally wouldn't sell it now.
If you haven't sold it, yeah.
If you haven't, I would not. But I think that right near at its lowest, it would be 0.024. And that's I would buy it at 0.024 personally. Because I think
that's a good target.
Yeah, I think you could either set it a little bit below it or maybe a little above it. Just depends on your preference. But I honestly think that it is going to, when it does bounce, it'll be a decent flip on the day. Also, I don't know if anyone was day trading Monero today, but Monero got to go through a glorious pump and dump. Huzzah. So, if for those of you that aren't following Monero's project, and unrelated to their project source, Bitmain, the powerhouse of ASIC miners, announced today on their Twitter that they had essentially cracked the code on the Kryptonite algorithm, which popular coins like Monero or Vertcoin also use that same algorithm. They announced that this miner, a $12,000 miner, $12,000, which, by the way, they have already sold out of both batches through the summer. But they announced that right here. Right there. That's where they announced it. So here, obviously, is for the people that all knew about it beforehand, because this is at the 2300 hour mark, and it was announced at 3 a.m.
I think we need to get the SEC involved in that insider trading there.
Right? I mean, yeah, because if you think about it, like, look at this. The setup of this flag, this entire setup was 4 hours before the announcement, and this is textbook bull flag.
Well, they are based in China, so you never know. They could be buying the dip.
I do not give anyone that amount of credit. No, fuck that. Liars, because it was right here. This was the end of that. all of it was the end. Because Monero doesn't support. What's really great is Monero XMR does not like ASIC miners at all. They've already denounced it. They're saying that that they might potentially fork Monero. So keep an eye out. Try and find the low.
And I think that is actually probably a good support level down there at 0.025. That's a good low. That's a good low point to buy it. Now, if you look at the 1 day or even the 1 week chart on Monero, you can tell that we're still very, very high compared to where it could be, right? Or where it was.
Right. And you can actually depending on this is just the 1 week. But I'm still super bullish on Monero. I think it's a fantastic coin. I think it's just a matter of being really patient with your buy, just to find out where things are going to be going, and keep your eye on the news if they're going to fork. Because they from everything that I've been reading, they truly want to be ASIC resistant. Also, keep an eye out for your Vertcoin, for you Vertcoin fans out there. Vertcoin might also fork as well. They I was trying to monitor their Twitter earlier today, and they were saying that it's pretty simple to fork the coin, and it's not that big of a deal. So a lot of the Kryptonite coins seem to be kind of that are saying they're ASIC resistant are pretty salty about this overly priced miner, for God's sake. Yeah,
so it's gonna be pretty interesting.
Oh, it's going to be like the next couple of months are going to be pretty insane. Because if we go over to the Bitmain website, you can see sold out. Ooh, sold out. It was 12 grand, and it ships May 15th. So I'd keep an eye out in this timeline because you're going to start seeing these miners go online, and the amount of power that these frickers are pumping out. Look at this hash rate. 220 kilohashes. What? That's insane. And the power consumption is actually super low compared to a lot of other miners.
Yeah. Mine uses, I want to say, like 1,650 watts. My S9s.
Yeah, and I think that if they don't fork, I think this miner is going to be like extremely profitable in like the first month.
Yes,
that's
month, the key.
You're going to make
you get them, the better.
Like a fuck ton of money. I was actually trying to do some research. In the meantime, and I'm going to be doing it while you're talking about more stuff. I was going to look up all of the different, like how many different coins run off of that Kryptonite algorithm to see like what all you can be mining and how.
Oh, on the X3.
Yeah, on the X3, because this thing is massive.
Yeah. So while you do that, I'm going to take over. I'm going to talk about Ripple a little bit. Everybody loves Ripple in one way, shape, or form. But what I want to look at this from is on a moving average perspective. Couple things that you'll notice here is we're forming some really interesting patterns on Ripple. You can see that our 30-day moving average is moving down, and it's actually crossed our 60-day moving average right here. So that's not really a good sign. And then we're looking at the other or the next two, which is the 90 and the 120-day moving average. And right now we're trading right in between these two. And I'm on the 1-day chart again. One thing that we can see here, we have an indecisive doji. It's kind of it's kind of bearish, but this next one right here, which is actually from, well, this says 3:16. It's still 3:15 here. My time zones might be messed up a little bit, but if this is potentially today's candle, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. If it gets rejected from this 90-day moving average, or if it's going to kind of fall through the 120-day. So some interesting activities happening here. Generally speaking, when I'm trading on moving averages, I trade off of the 30-day moving average if I'm looking for long term. If I'm looking for more of a short term, let me just remove some of my drawings here. If I'm doing on something more of a shorter term, I'll go on the 1 hour, and you can see some definite upward and downward movement. It's pretty constant. You can get some pretty amazing swings on Ripple right now, the way that it's been just constantly moving up and down. But you just have to be patient. You can see that we have a good buy point right here, and then the sell point up here, but I had to, take a loss if I was trading off of moving averages. Some bots that are available online, they go based off of moving averages. So whether it closes on one side or the other, it'll put into place a buy or a sell. On coins that go up and down like this, it's maybe a little more dangerous to do it based on the moving averages. But one thing that's really interesting is if you look at Bitcoin, if you were to have traded based on, let me get rid of all of this. I've got a bunch of stuff on here. If you would have done this on the 1-day chart on Bitcoin, this is really pretty interesting. What you can see is it would have basically told you to buy Bitcoin back here on November the 13th. That's when we crossed upward, and it stayed up forever. And then you would have purchased it right here at about 62.75. Then if you were to have held and waited for it to go below, you would have sold at about 14K. So that's still doubling your money, right? We had some sideways movement, which I generally don't. I don't use these moving averages when things are moving sideways like this because you just don't know. But so if I sold here, I may have purchased at this point, but one way or another, I would have sold in this area, and I wouldn't have purchased again until I got all the way down here to about 10K. So theoretically, I would have sold at about 14.6 and purchased, even after the bounce, because as things are going down, if you're disciplined enough to wait, even though you had a significant amount of lost profits, you still didn't have any additional losses. So that's important. And we've been moving sideways, but if I bought here, selling here, I'm still not in Bitcoin. I would still technically be out and just basically waiting for the candles to start moving upward. So right now on the 1-day chart, we have fallen below everywhere from the 30-day moving average to the 240-day moving average. So it's really hard to tell exactly where we're going to go. The last time we went below the 240-day moving average, you can see when that was, and you can see that it didn't stay down there for too long, but it dipped and then it came back up. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens over the next couple days when it, hopefully potentially bounces back. But I still think that there is a pretty strong level of support along this trend line here, and it's probably not going to go down too much farther. But if it does break through that level, it's definitely going to, and I'm talking this level right here, if it breaks through that, it could potentially be going back down to 6, and it might bounce just like it did here. It could be that the support that was here is now gone, and it could be going lower. That's a good possibility. There's a lot of people that are saying 3K, which is basically this point right here. That could be the point that it could go down to. I mean, these are just hypotheticals. We can't predict the future, but we can look.
I think there's too much buy pressure above that, personally.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. Good possibility. I think this upward trend line that we have here is going to provide a decent amount of support. So
I'd agree with that.
yeah, it could be that that this is the floor and we're going to go back up some more. But as I mentioned before, I think it's really important for everybody that's, even if you're new to the game or if you've been around for a while, what we experienced right here, please don't expect that all the time. Because if that happens all the time, then this happens all the time, and we don't want we don't want to have to go through the roller coaster. I think that a lot of good friends of mine that I made over the last couple months, I haven't heard from them in a long time because I think that that this scared them off, and don't want to scare people away. We want the new money that comes in. We want it to stay in the market, because more money that stays in the market, the higher the market cap goes, and I think that's generally a good thing. But I do think that in this area, as if I haven't drawn enough in here, I think this area for a lot of people is a no trade zone, which is why if you take a look at the volume, we did see a decent amount of volume here, but you can see this average we have dropped off and we're a little bit lower. So lower volume means that you have the potential for bigger swings, because buy walls and sell walls aren't where they should be. So it's a lot easier for something to elevator down to the floor.
Yeah.
All right. yeah, did you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the mining a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up?
Sure, no problem. I actually pulled up the mining calculator for Monero, and I put in the calculations for it. Yeah, that thing will this will change if Monero does not fork. This will literally change it forever. All Monero mining rigs will become obsolete, like so obsolete that they unless you're getting kilahashes, like it's just you literally can't compete. I mean, look how much you're making per day. $187 a day. Granted, this doesn't completely take into account of difficulty increasing, which with this kind of hash rate, imagine like thousands, like 1,000 of these machines, whatever amount. It's just going to ramp up that that difficulty really quickly. That's why I think that this miner will only be like highly profitable for like the first maybe 2 months, maybe.
I actually think there's a lot of risk to this miner because right now one of the major key factors of Monero is the CoinHive mining that's going on right now. CoinHive is a website, for those that don't know, that allows you to mine through a website. And it's a very popular website at this point in time. If this comes out, that could destroy the profitability of CoinHive. We ran some tests on CoinHive to see what kind of performance that you get. And a typical computer running a website at 50% mining power only produced, I think it was about 14 cents a month. And that's if they ran your website 24/7 for the entire month. So it's not insanely profitable, but it could kill the ability for a lot of websites that are using CoinHive, their ability to actually profit off of that, and then may decrease its value simply because these people are going to offload a lot of these coins. Some of it because their value is going to decrease too.
Oh yeah, I think initially the value of Monero is going to go up like dramatically.
Yeah, I think it'll go up dramatically, but as soon as the profitability goes down, then less people are going to be
mining it.
Mining it, exactly.
Yep. And then it's going to go to it's going to have, I think it'll have another crash.
Yeah. So, taking that into consideration, we talked earlier about our buy point for that it being, what was it, 0.025?
The two numbers we talked about were 0.024 and 25.
Yeah. So if you were to buy Monero, I would consider buying it around that level. Again, just kind of keeping an eye on it. Don't take my word for it, just our opinion, right? And then potentially holding it until this comes out, which we said was in mid-May. So that's like a 2-month hold. But it could return some pretty decent results if there is a little bit of hype that comes when these miners hit the market and there's a lot of interest in them. So that's something to look into. All right. We've been going here for about 35 minutes. So Dr. Vantage, did you want to close up with anything? I see you've got a head and shoulders on Bitcoin. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Sure, I can talk about this a little bit. So this is something I see forming on Bitcoin right now is we still have a very bearish head and shoulders that looks like it's forming on the one-day chart for Bitcoin. Again, it's bearish. It's a head and shoulders. There's a good chance this may drop down to the next support line very quickly, which is generally about the same height that the head actually makes. It'll actually typically correct down to that point. So we're looking around this 6,600 line right about here. So that's where I'm actually seeing Bitcoin will actually fall to before starting to correct. I was tinkering with a little just goofing off earlier, and I didn't notice that Bitcoin has gone through a series of head and shoulders lately. And it's something to mention because we actually have this head and shoulders right here. And you'll actually notice that the last half of the head forms the head and shoulders right here that we see. This has been kind of a continuing pattern for quite some time. So if you actually step this back, you'll just see that Bitcoin has been correcting up and down inside this channel that you'll see I've kind of pitchforked out. It's a little narrow right now. but it's kind of been hanging out in that channel and just staying in those grooves. So until Bitcoin actually breaks through the upper portion of this pitchfork, I think we're going to continue just to see a decline in the value of Bitcoin for a little bit longer.
Agreed.
All right, definitely. Okay, all right, everybody. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and close it up for tonight. This was our long video. We'll do our short bursts. You know, the ones that I try and do are, you know, we'll limit it to about 5 minutes or so. I know these that are 30, 40 minutes can be a little long and tedious. So, you know, we'll do some shorter videos over the next few days. Otherwise, we'll see you on Discord, whether it be in Premium Signals or some of the other various Discords out there. And you know, feel free. I'm going to give my shameless plug here at the very end of the video. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel, and that way you can be notified when we schedule new live broadcasts in the future. Everybody have a good night, good day, wherever you are in the world. Have a good night.
Good
Thanks,
night,
everyone.
everybody.